about leading people and planning for growth. So here are just some really important things I want you all to think about. Excuse me. When I usually start thinking, working with a company or thinking about a new initiative, one of the things I look at is, what is their customer dealing with right now? So if you remember, and this fluctuates, this could change from day to day, month to month, quarter to quarter. If you remember, I guess we're still technically in the pandemic. I think we're even seeing some surges, but if you remember when the pandemic started, right before the pandemic, the economy, I think, was doing very well. We're seeing some record highs. But once the pandemic really hit and people were very, very afraid, their buying habits changed dramatically. Okay. And if you were in business, and if you stayed in business, you probably had, well, not probably, most people had to pivot, because most people sold things that weren't necessarily necessities. The people who sold necessities, if they were able to pivot to a delivery platform or make their food or drinks or services or groceries available in a way that people could get it and still feel safe, they did well. So with your particular target customer, I really want you to think about, what are they dealing with right now and how does it affect their buying behavior? So you may have seen, hopefully, well, actually you may have seen this before, maybe not, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Actually, let me see, if you've seen it, put your little hand up in the, a little hand up if you've seen this before, all right? So if you, thank you for that. If you haven't, it's okay. What I like to use it for when I work with clients, or I talk to clients, is like, what is your customer experience right now and how are they dealing with things? And so if your customer is scared or afraid or hungry, it's really hard for them to think about going to Bali or going to the Maldives for a trip, right? If they're not sure if they're going to live till next month, or if they're afraid they're going to get sick if they go outside, they're probably not as likely to maybe buy, let's say, maybe certain things, like maybe certain trips or experiences, or maybe travel as much, either locally, maybe stay at hotels, that kind of thing. Because they're really, if you remember back to the pandemic, when everyone was afraid, they just stayed at home. And so now, given that was a very extreme situation, but depending on who your target customer is, they could be going through extreme situations at any given time. So let me explain a little bit more. And I'm going to use the pandemic as an example, because that was like at least the one time that I can think of in relatively recent times where there was so much stress on the system that everybody kind of was affected by it. So if you think about the pandemic, when people were really, really afraid, what did they do? They tried to address their basic needs. Basic needs like food and water, shelter, sleep, and air. So what did? They went to the grocery store and they purchased all the toilet paper and all the hand sanitizer and all the rubbing alcohol and all those things, and cleaning supplies and Lysol. So they could, and food and water and beans and all the things they could possibly get so that they could keep safe and take care of their family. They weren't buying trips. They were buying basic food that they could use to eat and live. Once they took care of that, what did they do? What do we see a surge in? We're talking about safety needs, right? People wanted to feel safe and secure, be in a safe environment, protected from harm. You saw ammunition became scarce. People were buying it, guns, other types of weapons, knives, all types of things. People were buying that like never before. Also, to keep make their home feel safe, what were they doing? They're on Amazon, making their house look nice, making it more comfortable. We saw a surge in home improvement. People were at home, so that's what they were focusing on, what was around them at the time. Once they dealt with that, okay, then maybe thinking about social needs. What do we see? Zoom. Zoom, they're using it now, but look how that skyrocketed. People have needed a way to relate to other people, needed a way to connect, but still be safe inside their home. So we saw virtual happy hours, and businesses were doing wine tastings online. All types of things happened, right? But there was online. Businesses pivoted because that's what customers wanted. That's what they needed at the time. Esteem needs. What did we see? Like after people had dealt with some of these other issues, then what do we see with esteem needs? We saw more than ever, more small businesses pop up. One, because people had lost their jobs or unemployment. People were trying to find a way to make money. So we saw so many people create their own hair care products, their own health and beauty. I mean, that industry surged during the pandemic. And then self-actualization, being creative, having fun with life, being content. Now, a lot of that, especially if it had to do with tourism, hotel business, travel, airlines, we saw them take a tremendous hit. Now, of course, one, due to just certain laws and guidelines and restrictions on travel, and that stress on the system, but also people were afraid. They were afraid to travel. But what did they do though? We saw many people go back to school. We saw many people, pay to go back to school. We saw many people create online educational programs. And we saw many, many people turn to the internet for ways of learning more than before. So because there was a tremendous stress in the system. So obviously, hopefully the pandemic will go away and we won't have to deal with this in our lifetime again, but who knows? But I wanted to point this out and use as an example, because I really want you to think about, where is your customer right now? Like right now, what are they dealing with right now? So if you sell business to business, even though they're businesses as opposed to individuals, they're affected. So if COVID hits, remember there were certain essential businesses that were allowed to stay open, like liquor stores and hospitals and things like that. So thinking about with your business, how in your particular customers, how is it affecting them right now? As we're either coming out of the pandemic, we're about to see a surge with the stock market. It crashed, or at least it went down over the last couple of weeks, but we saw a surge today. With your particular industry, whatever you're doing, if you're selling therapy, or if you're selling food, or if you're selling certain beauty products, what does that do? As far as like right now, with whatever your customer is dealing with, do they want to buy more or do they want to buy less? So it's important that you think about that as you either choose new customers, because there may be an opportunity. All those delivery businesses, they saw a tremendous surge during this time when there was stress on the system, because they addressed a need. People didn't want to come out, so what did they do? They took on that risk and they delivered to them. That was an opportunity, they pivoted and they capitalized on it. So with your business, I want you to think about, defining your mission, okay? So, and some of you are newer, some of you have been in the business for a while, but, I usually recommend a more systematic approach to kind of figuring out what you should offer your customers. And in particular, I ask you to think about, what are your knowledge and abilities in real life? Now, if you have to go to school to learn something or get a certificate, or whatever in order to provide your service, that's different. Then maybe you need to go to school. You assess that, okay, I'm gonna go to school for 2 years, 4 years, whatever, and then I'll start my business. That's fine, right? But if you need to start something now, I want you to think about, what are some things that you can offer right now? What abilities do you have right now that you can use to start a business and offer a product or service to people that they will pay for? Cash flow projections help you to figure out, how much money do you need to do it? So when you guys started working, and hopefully you did, after we went over it last week, and started looking at your numbers and figuring out, okay, this is how much my expenses are going to be in order to do the things I want. It either comes down to, okay, do I have enough money on my own? Will I make enough sales to make this happen? Or do I need a loan or an investor? Next, your time. we're all at different places in our lives. Me at 49, some of you are younger, some of you are older, some of you are retired, some of you are just getting started, some of you have kids or other family responsibilities, whatever it is. Some of you have a 9 to 5. I want you to think about and be honest with yourself. How much time do you really have to dedicate to your business? I mean, I've been in business 16 years and I still spend at least 50, 60 hours a week on it. I mean, I do love what I do, but it doesn't go away. And I do travel a lot too. Even when I'm traveling, usually I'm still working a little bit. So, but I don't have a wife. I have a 13-year-old son I spend a lot of time with. You may have a significant other that you need to spend time with in order to maintain your relationship. And I say that to say is because, and I share this very openly, I used to be married, but I didn't pay enough attention. I was busy growing my business. So that created a problem in our relationship. I didn't understand. I wasn't listening to what she was saying. I thought, hey, if I keep working, if I keep providing, making all this money, she'll be fine. But no, she wanted attention. So I share that. I'm like, look, that's real. So I want you to think about that. If you're planning to have kids, have a relationship while you grow your business, will your partner support you? Is this going to scare your partner, quitting your job? All those things are important to consider based on where you are in your life. Next, your team. This is something I've had to work on because I'm just not, maybe it's a childhood trauma. I just do not really like asking for help. I've had to learn how to do it if I want to grow my business though. So for you thinking about what are your limitations as far as asking for help or motivating people to assist you or leading people, who can be on your team? Do you have any staffing needs? What kind of different jobs are there that they're required for your business to really grow? What skill sets are needed? Are you going to be able to delegate? Are you going to be able to trust your process if you can't trust your people? Hopefully you can trust both. Also, I want you to think about, if money is important to you, where can you make the most money? And who has it? Why do bank robbers rob banks? Because that's where the money is, right? So if you're trying to sell to people who don't have money, that's a problem. Next, what allows you to manage the business and not work in it? So thinking about, of course, we all have to make money, but so let's say if you could work and just all of your money comes from 100% of your efforts, that's fine. You have created a job for yourself. But what if you could have 10 people working for you and get 10% off each of their efforts? That would generate enough money for you to live and pay them. And you don't have to be involved in the day-to-day. Now, it may take you time to get there, but I want you to think about these things as you plan on growing your business. So this may look a little complicated, but I'm going to explain it to you so it makes hopefully a little sense. Actually, I know it'll make sense after I explain it. So these circles, these are people, okay? The blue for that person represents expenses, business expenses. The green in a person represents that based on their efforts, they actually make money for the business, make profit for the business. They cover the expenses based on their efforts. So that's what the blue and green mean for each of these people. If you see this red horizontal line, that is the day-to-day of the business. You see these vertical red lines, that breaks up these scenarios, and there are 5 scenarios. Okay, so scenario 1, this is you by yourself. I'm going to use my favorite thing to usually use as a analogy, or an example is a cupcake business. Okay, so imagine you make delicious, amazing cupcakes, but it's just you by yourself. And so, as you can see here, most of your efforts are really just going to cover expenses. You haven't been to this class yet, so you don't know about maybe increasing your pricing or doing certain things so that you can charge enough money. Maybe you're not keeping in your price the actual cost of your business insurance and your utilities and all those things. So whatever price you're charging your customer, it really just covers the basic expenses. It covers enough, gives you enough money so that you can buy tomorrow's batter, tomorrow's eggs, tomorrow's supplies for more cupcakes. The problem with this is that it's just you. So not only are you making cupcakes, you're doing the posts on social media, you're paying all the bills, you're doing the invoices, you're going shopping for the food, you're doing everything. You're working 12 hours a day, maybe 16 hours a day. And the sad thing is you don't have really any money to show for it. This is going to be you for the rest of your life or until you quit or go get a job. So that's scenario one. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I want you to make the conscious decision to choose which scenario you want to be in, because you should run your business, not let it run you. Scenario two, see, you got a little bit of green. You came to this class and you realize, wait, in scenario one, back before I came to the class, I was only charging $3.49 a cupcake. After talking to Will, I was like, hey, I got to charge more. Maybe you don't feel like your cupcakes are good enough. Or maybe you don't feel, and maybe you feel like you're not really a real baker. Or maybe something is stopping you from really embracing the idea that you are great at what you do and you make delicious cupcakes and you deserve to charge. You deserve the life that you want, and your cupcakes are delicious enough that you can attract abundance and attract the right customer who will pay you the right amount of money for it. So you've come to that realization. And so instead of charging $3.49, you charge $3.59 a cupcake. And you make a little more money, and that little bit more money allows you to actually have a profit now. But as you can see, just like in scenario one, you're still involved in the day-to-day. You're still working 12 to 16 hours a day. It's still just you doing everything. You're still at the job all day long, but at least you have a little money in the bank. You just don't have time to spend it. Scenario three, you're like, wait a second, I need to charge more for these cupcakes. So instead of $3.59, maybe you go to $3.79. And that'll give you enough money that you can actually hire some people. If you see them, look, they're working diligently enough, and you created a system that's efficient enough so their work not only pays for their expenses, but also there's some profit on top. And guess who that goes to? That goes to you. So you're making money off the efforts of others. And you are actually coming out of the day-to-day. You don't have to work 16 hours a day now. You maybe only work like maybe 8 or 9 or 10 hours a day. And you're not the one making all the cupcakes. And you've got money in the bank. Scenario four, you're mostly out of the day-to-day. Well done. You're still doing some work, and your team, you raise your price. So from $3.49 to $3.59 to $3.79 to $3.89 in scenario four, and you have 4 team members, they're working efficiently, and they're making money for the business, making a profit for the business. And you're actually able to go home, you work maybe 7, 8 hours a day, you actually get to go home and you have money in the bank. Scenario five, you can see here, you raise your prices to $3.99 a cupcake. You're totally out of the day-to-day of your business. See, that's all blue, because there's no profit coming from as far as the day-to-day of what you do. You're not in there making cupcakes. You don't get dirty anymore. You're thinking about the next location, thinking about how can we expand. But your team is in there every single day, making it happen, making cupcakes. As you can see here, there's this one person right here. They don't have as much green. It's not that they're not working effectively. They're probably an administrative person who they're doing your invoices. You're making enough money now, you can have that person focus mainly on administrative tasks. Maybe they're doing the marketing for you or doing the invoices or whatever, and you're freed up to think and innovate and really think about how can you make more money. So like I said, any of these scenarios, as long as you choose them, that's fine. But I don't want you to just happen to be in one and get stuck. Here's another thing I want you to think about. So with these scenarios, scenario 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, think about this. Person A, let's say person A and person B both have delicious cupcake recipes. They're both really, really good, maybe even equally good. But person A on day one, she doesn't have great credit, and she doesn't really have any friends that have any money. But she has a 9 to 5. She puts her money together. She goes to the bank, and they say, "Ah, you don't have any credit. You don't have any collateral. We're not going to give you a loan or a line of credit." So she starts to grind it out, and it takes her 5 years to go from scenario 1 to scenario 5. Person B, day one, they have great credit. They have a family that has money that she can go and borrow money from them. And she goes and even they gave her some money to buy some equipment. So then she goes to the bank trying to get some more money, because then she has a cash flow projections, and she tells the banker, "Hey, here's how much money I need based on this, and I can start paying you back in month 7." And the banker says, "Oh, let's run your credit. Oh, wow, you have a 800 credit score, 750 credit score. Fantastic. How much do you need? Oh, $50,000 to get started to cover the first 5 months, and then you'll start paying us back in month 6, $800 a month. Okay, that sounds great. Here you go." And so she goes on day one, actually maybe day 2. Day 1 she's in the bank. Day 2 she gets funded. She goes right to scenario 5 because she has good credit, because she has some money in the bank, and she has cash flow projections, and it makes sense to the lender, and it's not going to be high risk. Same delicious cupcakes, but one has good credit and one doesn't. So I share that with you because I see this all the time. The people with more money and better credit, they can afford a consultant to help them, or they can make sure that they understand how to pay their bills off on time. And maybe they just didn't. Maybe the person A just didn't have anyone teach her that. The person B did. So depending on who you are, either you're person A or person B or somewhere in between, or whichever scenario you choose, I want you just to be aware that you can choose. I want you to start to make a plan. Okay. So when it comes to pricing, as you see, and I'll put this in the chat, I want you to copy and paste this like somewhere on your computer, because this is, I created this maybe like sometime last year. But people call it the Will Holmes method. I don't call it that. That's what people call it because they say they've never seen it before. But I think like in business school, they really call it like a break-even analysis. But here's what I'm talking about. In order for you to, and I touched on this a little bit last week with the cash flow projections, but I really want you to think about this, okay? It's really hard to say how much, like if someone says, how much money do you want to make? Oh, I want to do $100,000 this year. That doesn't really mean anything because it doesn't really take into account your expenses. I mean, so like, for example, I have a friend, she has a trucking business. And so we do about, we do about the same. We do about the same amount of money, but my profit margin's about 60%. Her profit margin's 10. So she's keeping about $100,000, $205,000. I'm keeping about $400,000, $500,000. Now we have different business models. I mean, as you can see, I deliver my product. I'm at home right now. She has to have trucks. She has like 4 or 5 trucks, 4 or 5 drivers. Okay. So every business model is different, but what really matters is it doesn't really matter how much you make, it's how much you keep. Profitability. So what I want you to focus on, like it doesn't matter how much the big number is, what matters is how much you get to keep. And the way you have control over that, instead of just going in and seeing what happens, is I want you to think about how much money you want to have, how much money you want to bring home. And also, I want you to think about how much money you want to bring home, not including your salary or not include paying you for your time. Why? I think I mentioned it last time, but why am I saying that? Because if you are to get out of the day-to-day of your business, someone has to do that work and they have to get paid. You may choose not to pay yourself. That's up to you. But if you're going to get out of the day-to-day, someone's going to have to do the work. So what I'm asking you to do is think about, whatever, let's say you do 40 hours a week, whatever you're going to pay someone else to do that, that should be included in your price, even though it's you doing it. Because if you don't, you'll never be able to scale. Then so with all your expenses, then I want you to really think about, on top of all your expenses, how much money do you want to bring home? So in the first part of today's price is not yesterday's price. Choose your profit goal for the year, your profit goal. So remember, revenue is the top number. Profit is in between what you charge the customer and your expenses. The profit's what you get to keep. So let's say you say, well, look, Will, I want to bring home $120,000. I say, okay. So divide that by 12, that's $10,000 a month. That's profit. So let's just hold on to that number. I'll write it down, make sure I don't forget. So that $10,000 a month in profit. So then, out of all your expenses for the month, this will give you your monthly expenses total. So when I say all, I mean all. I mean like your business, and personal. Because remember, you're paying yourself, and your personal expense number, that'll be your salary. Once you total that up, let's say, for your mortgage and things like that, let's say that personal part is $2,000. And you look at your business expenses, and you find out that's $3,000. So altogether, that's $5,000. All right, for your expenses. All right, that's part two. Part three, or step two. Step three, add your monthly profit goal to your monthly expenses. This will give you your monthly revenue target. This is what you have to sell every month. So $10,000 in profit, $5,000 in expenses is $15,000 that you have to sell. Okay, you guys, if you're with me on this, put the little hand up, a little hand. If this makes sense, all right, does this make sense what I'm saying? All right, good. So that $15,000 is how much you have to sell in order for you to make the money you want to make. Then I want you to find your average price for your products or services. Now, I know everybody sells different things here, and this is not an exact number. What this is going to give you is a place to start. So if you look at, Will, some of my things are $10, some of them are $100. Some of them are $2,400. Well, some of them are, for a whole package where a session may be $100. Like, okay, do something in the middle. All right, so let's say $1,200. Is what is the average cost of what you sell. Like I said, I know this is not an exact number. It gives you a place to start. Maybe your number is, let's say it's 3,000. Let's say you sell some high ticket prices, okay? So if you look at it and you say, okay, well, wait a second. My average for number 4, my average price for my products is $3,000, all right? Number 5, you divide that 15,000 by your 3,000, and that's going to give you your initial sales goal. Now, for these high ticket items, that's just five things you have to sell a month. If you're selling yours for 300, you got to sell 50. If your average cost of your things are 30, you got to sell 500. See what I did there? Really, I know this is not exact, but what this is, it gives you a way to think about it. Because once you start to think about, wait a second, well, if I want to sell 5 things, I can do that by myself, maybe, right? If I got to sell 50 things, I may need a partner. I may need some more help. I may need people working, people putting things together. If I have to sell 500 of them, then maybe I need to have internet. I got to have online sales. I've got to have other things that will drive up my cost of doing business. Because if it's just me, right, that's a low cost thing, right? If I have to get more people, then that's going to make my expenses jump from 5,000 to another higher number. And that's where you go back into your cash flow projections and you play with it. Remember last week, we just played with the number. We played with it. We were just like, okay, what are the expenses? What are the expenses? Okay, wow, we got to sell more stuff. All right, so that's where that 6 comes in, step 6. You evaluate feasibility. Okay, so remember your monthly expenses for your business, we said it was 5,000 to do what you're doing now. But But if you're like, wait a second, you know what? It's going to jump to 10. So now it's not 10,000 in profit plus 5 in expenses. It's 10,000 in profit plus 10,000 in expenses. All right, so now it's 20,000. You divide it out, okay, and then you realize, okay, wait a second. So with more people, it gives me the opportunity and the ability to sell more things and still make my profit. This is where you have to really, this is once again, going back to your cash flow projections, helping you to figure out how to use it and play with the numbers so you can have a plan. Okay, and also if you just joined, do me a favor and go on mute. Okay, so you can have a great recording for you all to listen to later on. All right, so I'm going to keep going. So just remember, as you make your cupcakes, it's not just the cost of batter. It's not just the cost of batter. It is one, labor. Someone's got to make the cupcakes, and sure, maybe you're doing it now in scenario one, but you may not want to be the only person making cupcakes the rest. You don't want to make cupcakes the rest of your life, 12 hours a day. Probably not. So baking into the cost of your cupcakes, labor, people to do the work, marketing, utilities, rent, recruiting and training. Because I mean, probably some of you're experiencing it's hard to keep people working these days. So investing in a recruiter or having a relationship maybe with a local school or some source so you can keep bringing people in. Some of your money should be reinvested in the business. So if you say end of the month, you've got 5,000 left over, that's you determine what you want to do with it. You may say, okay, it's 5,000. I'm going to use this and I'm going to buy more equipment, or I'm going to put it to the side. I'm going to get a bigger place based on my cash flow projections. If I do this every month, I put 4,000 to the side for 10 months. I'll have enough to buy a space. I'm not going to spend it on trips or whatever. I'm going to reinvest in the business. You can make that plan with your cash flow projections. Your profit, of course, that should be in every single cupcake you sell, and then your savings and investments. So I think I mentioned it, but just to make sure, on your cash flow projections, even though, and look, your accountant would probably like, what are you doing? You're mixing business and personal. This is not for your accountant. This is for you to plan. So on your cash flow projections, I want you to put on anything that you want to buy. You want to buy a new car? Great. You want to go on a trip? Great. Put every single cupcake, maybe it's 10 cents around every cupcake goes towards that new trip or that new house or that new piece of equipment, or maybe your savings, or maybe your investments or your retirement, because we're all getting older. And when you work for somebody, maybe you had a 401k or something like that, but now you have to make sure you're putting money to the side for yourself. You can't just hope that, oh, as business gets better, I'm going to have let me tell you, time goes fast, and old age sneaks up on you. It just sneaks up on you real fast. All of a sudden you're 49 or you're 50 or you're 60. I need you to start planning for that. All right. I'm just going to check in with you guys just real quick. What I'm saying, does it make sense? Thumbs up? All right. All right, good. Very good. I'm going to jump back in. Oh, wait, I think we had a question. Jada Jennings, do you have a question? I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Or you just have your hand up still? Okay, all right, no problem.
Sorry, no question. Yeah, it was just still raised from before. Sorry.
Oh, no worries, no worries. I don't want to miss anybody. No question. I left unanswered. Here we go. Go back in. All right. So when you're thinking about needs in the market, all right, and we're going to get more into this later on in the class, not tonight, but in future weeks. I want you to think about different ways that you can make money. Remember, we were going through the cash flow projections on that top part, being creative. What else can you sell, right? So you may sell direct to customers now. Also, I know some of you are in this class because you want to sell to Revival Hotel. Okay, in fact, let me just stop real quick. I wanted to ask you all this. Who has a product? Some of you may just want to be in the class, right? But who, raise your hand, who has a product they actually can sell to the hotel? Okay, and that's fine, right? What I want, so, and the reason I ask that is that what I may do is have 2 breakout rooms during graduation, where some people are doing more of a pitch, like, hey, I want you to buy my product, right? And other people are doing more of a presentation about their business, okay, to bankers and to government contractors, things like that. We do that with other programs, but I didn't know exactly where you guys are. Also, some of you may not even be ready. I just don't know yet if you're even ready to sell. Okay, you may say, well, I've got an idea, but I don't have a product I can even sell yet. And that's okay. We're going to work, we got a little time. We're going to get you closer and closer. But when we have time to figure that out, I just want to get an idea of, so thanks for sharing that. Ms. Fields, you have a question? No? Okay, we're going to keep going. All right, so assessing needs in the market. What I want you guys to think about, and you're being creative and you're thinking about ways you can bring in money, different people you can sell to. So B2C, that's what we call like business to customer, B2B, business to business, B2G, business to government. 3, normal, you're more, not normal, I don't want to say normal, but more of your traditional ways of making money. There's also C2C, customer to customer, where you sell to other individuals. But I'm not going to go into that today, but maybe later on in the class. But B2C, here's some things to think about. If you're selling direct to consumers, what are their immediate needs? And remember, you talked about Maslow's hierarchy. How are they feeling right now? What are they focused on? What's their pain point? What's their time frame? What's their budget? How easy is it to get to them? What's the size of the market? I was talking to somebody today. They called me, and they have an idea, not even a product. They have an idea for a product, and what he wanted to know was basically he wanted me to find someone to sell his idea to. I was like, well, have you created like a prototype? Have you done? He gave a whole list of other things. And he was like, nope, I didn't want to do that. I want to just sell my idea. I said, so sell just the thought? And I was like, no, nobody's going to buy it, right? I said, you got to do some work. And so, because they don't, how would they know what to buy, what to offer to sell it? Offer to buy it if you don't have an idea of the size of the market. So what do I mean, right? When I say size of the market, I mean, how many people are out there that will actually buy it, who have this need, who have this desire, who have this pain point that your product will fill. And remember, you're not going to sell to 100% in most cases. Definitely in most cases, you may only sell to 1% or 2% or 4%. But if you know there are 100,000 people out there who have this need, and you're selling to 4%, and you have conservative, and let's say that 4% is conservative, and remember on the cash flow projections, conservative revenue, but fat expenses, and you still make money, that means you have a viable business model, okay? So you got to think about that. Timing. Talking to another lady it was maybe like in the fall, and her product was really, it was this product I won't go into because I think it was, it's a secret, I guess, but the product that she had was really for the pandemic. And at the time, a few months ago, we pretty much thought the pandemic was over. I guess we keep thinking that, right? But we're seeing surges, I guess, this week. But her product was really to address the pandemic, an issue with the pandemic. And I was like, well, what happens when the pandemic goes away? She didn't have an answer for that, right? So the timing of your business, the timing of your product or services, is it timely? Do people still want it right now? Will they want it 10 years from now or 1 year from now? Your abilities and your own products. How hard is it to make it? Do you need help making it? Your product or delivering your service? Profit potential. How much money can you really, really make? You may say, oh, I want to make $100,000, but that would mean that your cost of your cupcakes might be $50 a cupcake. Will your customers pay $50 a cupcake? Well, then maybe you can't make, maybe it's going to be more difficult to do 100,000 with your current business model and profit. Maybe you can only do 50, or 20,000. Some businesses just don't have enough margin, capabilities to really make a whole lot of money, where others do. And of course, your infrastructure, from the person seeing your ad to them clicking on your website to them placing an order, and it goes to someone in your organization, and they start fulfilling that order, and then delivering it to the customer and shipping it overnight and keeping it frozen, or having a store, whatever your infrastructure is, to make it as easy as possible for your customers to buy from you. And all those things cost money and affect the price. Business to business. So you're selling direct to companies. What are their immediate needs? What's their time frame? What's their project budget? So often businesses will buy things like as a project, or maybe they're buying things in bulk, right? So you have to understand your service or your product. How are they buying it? How is Revival Baltimore Hotel buying your product? And I'm going to tell you this, if you haven't, I mentioned it, but I really want you to do it. For those 4 or 5 people who want to sell something to the hotel, you should be scheduling some time with Jason Bass. Because if that's your target customer, you should be asking him and Dante, hey, what are your needs? Because that gives you 3 or 4 weeks to customize your pitch to their needs. I mean, I want to see you. I want to make sure you see my face when I want to see your faces. Do you understand what I just said? Because think about it, right? Think about if someone was selling you something. Okay, and let me tell you this. Good salespeople, they know their product, they know their pitch, they know their script, they know all the benefits, and they just start talking. And they say, oh, Dr. Hanifa, I see you like white coats. Well, guess what? I've got a white coat here, and it comes in, your size, and it's only $20. And you may say, well, I've got enough white coats, right? As opposed to I say, Dr. Hanifa, how are you? And I ask you questions, and I say, I noticed you have a white coat. Do you need more white coats? Yes, I do. Actually, I do. I say, okay, well, usually what size? Oh, I wear like a small or medium. Okay, great. We have lots of smalls and mediums. And, as far as there's certain material you want to have. Oh, I love, cotton, or I love, cotton with some special coating on it so blood doesn't get on me, or, whatever, right? So by asking those questions, I get to know exactly what you want, as opposed to trying just pushing white coats on you because I think you might want to do that because you're a doctor, right? So great salespeople ask lots of questions to customize the solution. So if you are going to sell to the hotel, I need you, please, 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 to schedule some time with Jason Bass and Dante. If you don't have their emails, let me know. I can connect you. I think you guys probably have them. I need you to schedule some time with them and figure out their needs. So that way, when you do your pitch, it's beautiful. Based on our conversation, I think the needs of the hotels show that they need 10,000 suite rolls every single month. And here at Sweetfields, we have the ability to deliver that many suite rolls every single. You see what I mean? Like it's customized. All right. I'm gonna go back in. Oh, so that's business to business, knowing their budget cycle. So here's the thing, right? So usually with customers, often they're just buying it. Like they've got their credit card, they're online, they come to your shop, whatever it is, maybe you have a payment plan, whatever, but usually you're getting cash, usually like right then and there, right? Or at the beginning. And if you're not, I should recommend getting a deposit. But with businesses, they may pay you net. So maybe you deliver it, but then you get paid maybe after the project ends, if you're delivering a service, or maybe maybe they're going to pay you 7 days later, or 14 days later, or 21 or 90 days later. Remember when we did the cash flow projections, that has a direct effect on how much money you have in your business. So I need you to think about that. What's the timing and budget cycle for getting paid? Also, some businesses, and just like government, they have a cycle where they create a budget. So maybe every October they create their budget for the next year. And if it's not in their budget, then they don't buy it. So you've got to maybe talk to them in March, April, May, June, July, August to get in front of their procurement person or get in front of their budget person or the decision maker, so that goes into the budget for next year. So think about that. Profit margins, maybe they buy in bulk, so they're going to want it wholesale. That's different. You sell to customer and you sell at retail, right? Maybe they want it a little cheaper because they're buying more. How much, and if you know your real cost of creating that cupcake, you can confidently negotiate because well, you know what, $3.49 I break even, but I'm charging $3.99. Well, look, we'll buy a bunch of them, but we'll do it at $3.89. They're thinking they're being savvy, and they are, I guess, negotiating. Okay, look, I'm not going to make 50 cents a cupcake. I'll make 40 cents. You know what? That's still good because you know your numbers. You can negotiate that profit margin. Okay. B2G. So if you're thinking about working with the government, which, in many cases, they buy everything you are probably selling. In many cases, they have what's called a forecast where they will put out, this is what we're buying this year. And we'll talk more about this later on in the class, but I want you just open your mind up a little bit, because let me tell you, my first government contract was like $532,000. I had never gotten a contract that big before from anybody, but it allowed me to hire people for a number of years. I wasn't just chasing little clients. I had a big client and I could really create stability in my business. You could do the same thing. Contract opportunities, there's a whole contract process, and I'm going to teach you, but it's a whole contract process you have to go through, writing proposals, etc., so you can get the work. These are bigger contracts, so it does require more work to get them, talking to the client and writing proposals. There's federal, of course, there's a federal government, there's also the state government, and then guess what? Every single county and city buys stuff. So you may be able to sell what you're selling, not just to the federal government, but the however many counties there are in every single state. Knowing the proposal process, knowing the contract size and terms, understanding their fiscal year, like their budget cycle, et cetera. Their NAICS codes if you're selling to the government. So long time ago, someone wrote down all the jobs in the world and gave them a code. Those are NAICS codes. So to figure out what your NAICS codes are, because that's how the government shops for things. They don't just say, oh, I want cupcakes. They may say, oh, we are looking for NAICS code 542225 baked goods. That's how they buy. So I want you to think about these things. And identifying organizational goals. So with your business, I want you to think about key metrics, how you measure things, because if you don't measure it, you can't improve it. So do you measure, I want you to measure how much capital you need to make your business go, how much revenue you can really generate, how much does it cost per sale, how much does it cost for you to do marketing, what are the expenses involved with running your business, the expenses per employee. How do you measure quality and quantity? How do you decide how much you're going to reinvest every month? How do you assess what needs to be reduced as far as certain expenses or find certain inefficiencies in your business? Your key metrics help you to do that. Also, I want you to think about how do you define success? Success for me is I want to be able to travel more and be able to take care of my son and live the life I want to live. Like that's pretty much success for me. And make money, but I really want freedom. For you, it may be something else. You have to define that and then work backwards and figure out how to get there. For your company, you should have annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily goals that all roll up into each other. So if you know that you've got to sell 100 things a month and you've got 10 salespeople, you're going to tell them not 10 they have to do a month. You're going to tell them, hey, I need you guys to do 15 a month, because if they're going to be late, they're going to miss days, they're going to be whatever, they may fall short, they're going to get sick. So if they miss 15 but do 12, you still came out okay. Departmental goals should roll up into the company goals. Individual goals should roll up into the departmental goals. As long as everybody knows what the goals are and you define that, and everyone's doing what they're supposed to do. Also, I'm going to tell you this is something I really want you to think about. If you walk into your business and people are sitting around twiddling their thumbs, it's your fault. That is your fault. If people are not making money for your business, that's your fault. Because I need you to create a system that keeps them busy and keeps them productive. I need you to know how many cupcakes they have to make in a day in order for you to make money. I need you to know that, and then create metrics and guidelines and procedures so that they hit that. But if you don't, you're going to be losing money on every single person, every single hour. This is how you get paid. This is how you become a millionaire. This is how you grow your business. You have to pay attention to these things. All right. And our panelists have started to arrive. I'm very excited about that. And this is my last slide. With your business, if you're thinking about growing and sustaining and building a business that will last, you have to understand how to create win-win relationships and think about what people really want. What do employees see? Like, we're entrepreneurs, like we take risks. Like, I don't get paid every 2 weeks. My people get paid every 2 weeks, but I don't think like that. I'm thinking like how much money I can make next year. What do I need to do now to get next year's money? I'm still paying attention to this year's money, but I'm already thinking about next year. But with my employees, though, they're thinking about, I need to get paid every 2 weeks. What do I got to do? They're not working for free, right? They want job security. They want personal growth. They want professional growth. That's what employees, that's how they think. So you have to create a situation that allows them to have that. If not, they're going to leave because it's scary. It's not stable. Partners, what do your partners want? They want a return on their investment. They want to grow their business too. Your contractors, your 1099s, what do they want? They want to get paid. They want to get paid on time, right? Maybe they want something else. What do your customers want? You got to answer that by talking to them. What's in it for them? What benefits? What pain points is your product or service address? You have to talk to them and figure that out. But all these things, this helps you to figure out really the plan for how you're going to lead your people and how you're going to plan for growth.